What if the world you imagined as a child suddenly stepped off the page and onto a cinema screen? What if the dragons you pictured in your mind suddenly breathed fire in front of you in breathtaking detail? There is something almost magical about watching a fantasy book come alive. But there is also something terrifying about it. Because what if they get it wrong? What if the world you loved is broken in the process? Every reader knows this fear. We build these worlds privately. We cast the characters ourselves. We design the landscapes in silence. And then Hollywood arrives. Sometimes it delivers a masterpiece. Sometimes it delivers heartbreak. Fantasy is not just another genre. It is imagination at its most vulnerable. It is childhood wonder stretched across hundreds of pages. It is escape when reality feels heavy. So adapting it to film is a dangerous mission. Yet when it works, it changes culture forever. Entire generations grow up shaped by these stories. Midnight book releases become red carpet premieres. Lines of text transform into iconic scenes. Words become music. Descriptions become landscapes. Internal monologues become unforgettable performances. Think about the first time you saw your favorite fantasy hero on screen. Did they look exactly how you imagined, or completely different? Did it surprise you? Did it thrill you? Or did it quietly disappoint you? That emotional gamble is what makes fantasy adaptations so powerful. They carry expectations heavier than any sword. They carry fandoms larger than kingdoms. And they carry decades of imagination. Some adaptations rise above the page. They expand the universe in ways even the author never dreamed. Others shrink the magic. They simplify the complexity. They rush the wonder. But the greatest adaptations do something rare. They respect the source. They honor the fans. And they understand the heart of the story. Because fantasy is not about spells. It is about hope. It is about courage in impossible worlds. It is about friendship stronger than darkness. And when filmmakers understand that, something extraordinary happens. The screen stops being a screen. It becomes a portal, a doorway into somewhere else, a reminder that magic might still exist. So which fantasy adaptations truly achieve this impossible task? Let's step into those worlds and find out. Let's begin with the adaptation that redefined cinematic fantasy forever. When The Lord of the Rings arrived in theaters, expectations were enormous. For decades, many believed it was unfilmable. The books were dense, layered, and deeply philosophical. The world felt too vast for a screen. Yet when Peter Jackson unveiled Middle-earth, something extraordinary happened. Audiences didn't just watch it, they lived inside it. New Zealand transformed into sweeping kingdoms and ancient forests. Characters once confined to ink became legends of cinema. The weight of the One Ring felt real. The Fellowship felt like family. And suddenly, fantasy wasn't niche anymore. It was global. Midnight premieres felt like pilgrimages. Fans wept during farewells at the Grey Havens. Critics who once dismissed fantasy now praised its depth. That adaptation didn't just respect the source, it expanded it. Then came a very different kind of magic. When Harry Potter stepped onto the screen, an entire generation held its breath. Millions had grown up alongside those pages. They had imagined Hogwarts in their own way. They had cast their own Harry, Hermione, and Ron. And then the first train left platform 934 on film. The music swelled, the castle appeared, and the world felt exactly right. That feeling is rare. It is the moment when imagination and execution align. The films matured as the books matured. Darker themes were handled with emotional gravity. Friendships deepened. Loss became real. The audience grew older with the characters. That connection created cultural permanence. But fantasy adaptations are not only about epic battles and wizard schools. Sometimes they are about survival and rebellion. When The Hunger Games hit cinemas, it brought dystopian fantasy into mainstream conversation. Readers wondered whether the brutality could translate respectfully. The result was tense, grounded, and emotionally sharp. Katniss Everdeen became more than a character. She became a symbol. The world of Panem felt disturbingly plausible, and audiences reflected on their own society. These adaptations worked because they understood tone. They did not merely recreate plot, they recreated atmosphere. They recreated emotional stakes. They made audiences feel what readers once felt alone. And that is the key. A great adaptation does not copy pages. It captures essence. But here's where things become more complicated. Because sometimes even massive budgets cannot guarantee magic. Here's the uncomfortable truth about fantasy adaptations. Spectacle alone is never enough. Bigger budgets do not guarantee bigger magic. Stunning visuals cannot replace emotional depth. And sometimes, the most anticipated adaptations stumble the hardest. Think about the projects that had everything. Massive marketing campaigns, a built-in global fan base, cutting-edge visual effects, yet something felt missing. The world looked beautiful, but it felt hollow. The characters spoke, but they did not resonate. The battles were loud, but they were not meaningful. Why does this happen? Because fantasy is not powered by CGI. It is powered by emotion. Readers fall in love with characters first. The magic is secondary. When filmmakers misunderstand that order, the foundation cracks. Some adaptations rush through character development. They condense complex arcs into shallow moments. They simplify morally gray decisions into easy answers, and fans feel it instantly. It becomes clear when heart is replaced by spectacle. Even loyal audiences struggle to defend it. This is where perspective shifts. Maybe adapting fantasy is not about replication. Maybe it is about translation. Books allow readers to live inside thoughts. Films must externalize those thoughts visually. That is a completely different language. A novel can linger in introspection. A film must move with rhythm. A book can describe a kingdom for pages. A film must show it in seconds. That compression is risky, and sometimes it breaks the spell. But here is the deeper insight. The greatest adaptations embrace change carefully. They understand what must remain untouched and what can evolve for cinema. They do not worship the text blindly. They interpret it with respect. That balance is delicate. Too much deviation alienates fans. Too little adaptation makes it static. The magic lies in harmony. When that harmony is achieved, audiences forget they are watching an adaptation. They feel like they are discovering a world for the first time. That feeling cannot be manufactured.